fans, I think, can sense it right now.
To go, inbound to Weatherspoon with one. Weatherspoon puts up the three. It's no good!
The Liberty Flames are still dancing.
Fan the Flame to the biggest victory in school history.
Georgia to inbound, gets to the AC. Deep three, pull up. He banked it in! He banked it in!
Shot at the buzzer. Good! It's good! It's good! It's one more!
Larry Blair reverse layup, up and in, and he's fouled.
Man, you talk about degree of difficulty.
With two, Georgie at the buzzer. Got it! He got it!
Darius McGee, a game for the ages.
And Liberty wins 4 games in the Big South tournament to take home the 2013 crown.
Look at Bio Baxter now.
25 for Colin Porter.
Holmesley, splash!
Shiloh Robinson with an effort play.
And Liberty keeps on coming.
A huge basket by Kyle Rome.
Got it! Pacheco with the 3.
Liberty, put your dancing shoes on.
Well, hey, what's going on? Welcome into the ASOR Red Basketball Podcast. Nick Kirby, Will Matthews, Jon Manson, all in the house tonight. Let's talk about the 9-1 Liberty Flames basketball team. Will, we were running a little bit behind, a few seconds. Why were we running behind? Because Will was brewing a fresh, glorious pot of the ironclad coffee. Will, tell me what we're rocking tonight.
Man, well, first of all, Kirby, glad to be with you tonight. John, the Podfather, always good to get with you boys and just talk a little bit of hoops and drink some Ironclad. I got a fresh batch of bare knuckle espresso in the mail the other day, 2-pound bag, so that'll last me through the end of the year, I hope, which is not really all that long. So, but no, just looking forward to some hot coffee and some hoops.
Shout out to Ironclad. They're getting ready to open up a shop in Lynchburg, right basically across the street from campus. So should be opening up soon. So
fantastic. And as always, Ironclad has orders online, ironcladcoffee.com. Great Christmas presents. Be sure to check out Ironclad Coffee. Great supporters of ASOR Red, great supporters of all things Liberty Athletics, which all of us here love. All right, well, 9-1. It's been a little while. I think the last time we talked was right after FAU Charleston. We were feeling pretty good then. But then Liberty goes down to the where was that? The Paradise Jam and the Virgin Islands,
yeah.
And runs through. I mean, I would say runs through. They had a couple close games, but wins that tournament. Yesterday looked like a high major team taking care of business against a low major team. I mean, pretty good stuff all around, right, Will?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were just happy to get a split in that one, that one tournament, Athletes in Action. And then, you go into this other tournament and, man, I haven't kind of felt this way in my feels a little bit for Liberty basketball in a few years. Just the potential. And also I wanted to say, if anybody is watching this show because they follow Sea of Red, but do not follow Nick Kirby on Twitter or X, you got to get over there, bookmark his page, and just look at some of these outstanding Ken Palm net stats that Nick has been pulling out of his pockets and just handing out for free.
Yeah, he's over on the Twitter or the X, whatever you want to call it, ASOR Vons Palm. Great follow, must follow for Liberty Flames fans, especially this time of year. But man, it's been a lot of fun. 9-1. We can talk about the Paradise Jam in more detail, but getting those 3 wins and you mentioned it too, Nick, last night, just taking care of business. And honestly, we won that game by more than what the final score ended up being. I mean, Coach McKay went deep into his bench the final 10 minutes. We were completely dominating those first 30 minutes, then let the rest of the bench kind of get some playing time. And I mean, I'd have to go back and look at it. I don't know how many points MVSU had with 10 minutes left, but they only had 16 at half, and the team was playing really good. And doing that without Zach Cleveland too should be fine. But it's been a lot of fun. This team, I hate to, what's the old saying, count your chickens before they hatch, but we should be in really good position with a really nice looking record when we get into January and conference play starting.
Yeah, I mean, it would definitely be a pretty big shock if Liberty doesn't take care of business in their final two. UT Arlington on December 21st. That'll be a little bit more of a challenging game. I feel very confident about North Carolina A&T next Saturday. But yeah, I mean, Liberty is positioned very well to roll into conference play 12-1. I think when we were like 3 losses, I think we would have been happy with at the beginning of the year. Yeah. And the wild thing is, I mean, the only loss was in overtime, a game that really Liberty kind of let get away at the end, or else Liberty be 10-0 and legitimately knocking on the door of the top 25 right now. But nonetheless, I mean, you have to be incredibly excited with where this team's at. I want to talk a little bit more about the bench, kind of what we saw last night a little later on, because I think there's some really exciting stuff there that I'm really encouraged with. But let's go back to that tournament and kind of give it its due. I wish we could have gone on like right after. Fortunately, life happened that week. But just beating Kansas State and McNeese. I know both Kansas State and McNeese unfortunately took losses over the weekend, both top 100 losses, but they're both those teams I think are top 100 teams, but hopefully those two teams can play better. But nonetheless, I mean, John, it's almost become old hat. Like Liberty can just beat Power 5 teams, and it's kind of just so crazy that like I went into that game expecting Liberty to win.
Yeah, no, I did too. And the unfortunate thing is we don't get a ton of cracks at them, right? And you feel like when you get them, you have to swing and not miss, right? It's like the pitch coming right down the middle. You got to knock it out the park. And fortunately, we did just that. And I felt the same way. I felt like we were the better team. I felt like Coach McKay said it afterwards. He said something to the effect of, Kansas. It's not like one of these games that sometimes you'll see some big crazy upset where a low to mid-major team upsets a high major, and it's really because the high major wasn't focused. But that's not what it was. Kansas State knew they were going to be in for a dogfight, and Liberty was right there with them. Their size and length and athleticism, I'm not going to say it didn't affect us. I think it did affect Zach Cleveland, the way he finished at the rim, but we were able to overcome that and didn't affect us so much to the point where we couldn't pull out the win. And it's a great test. I mean, those are the type of teams with that size, length, athleticism that you'll be facing in March, if we get to that point, if we're fortunate enough to get to that point. So a lot of fun to be able to get that win. And again, like we said, that's your only power conference team you get on the schedule all season that you're guaranteed of before you get into March. So you got to take advantage of those. And Nick, I don't know if you want to talk about this a little bit, but you and I kind of, the three of us were in a group chat, and you said, talking about, at large type of, potential and Will was like laughing at you, and I came into your fit. I agree. Like I said going into that, if you won that tournament, you can start to build. You've at least got, I guess the best way to say it is you've got the foundation built for a potential resume worthy of an at-large bid. I went into it more in depth earlier and said, I mean, we're going to have to be perfect pretty much to really get an at-large, but it's just good to be in that conversation. And Conference USA has been off to a great start too. I mean, a few good wins. So
Conference USA just passed over the weekend the AAC, which is pretty cool. Considering
that's big.
Everyone in Conference USA left for the AAC. I mean, Florida Atlantic, obviously, UAB. I think North Texas was in there. You go down the list. They've passed them. So
the number 9 conference in the country right now.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
the Missouri
crazy.
Valley too. I mean, This is that's why I think they got a shot. I mean, they would have to. I think if Liberty could go the rest of the way with 2 losses or less, and let's say one of those losses aren't FIU or some, really FIU is probably the only really bad team in this league, and they're still 255. I would say 2 losses. I would say they're in. They're on most bracketologists in at the end. I think 3. I think you have a chance. And I look back and looked at this a little bit more. I mean, McNeese State I think had 4 losses last year. They were a 12 seed. And so yeah, I mean, I don't know, and it doesn't feel like, I know they say this every year, but it doesn't feel like, if you've watched college basketball around, it doesn't feel like there's just this, incredible gap. I mean, Kennesaw went and beat a top 25 Rutgers team. New Mexico, who was a tournament team, got beat by New Mexico State, and that's just in Conference USA. I don't know. I mean, I think this team definitely has an at-large chance. They would have to obviously have a historic season almost in Conference USA. But, I mean, I look at Conference USA, and it's a good league, but I think there's a pretty big gap between Liberty and the field. Maybe La Tech's weird. They've had some inconsistencies, but I think there's Liberty, La Tech, and I think there's a pretty large gap.
We can talk about Conference USA in more detail later. I don't know. It's going to be a very competitive league. It's going to be hard to win on the road. But one thing, and Will, I'll let you bring us all back down to reality after this. But one thing is, you look at Indiana State last year. They ended up being like one of the last teams out. They were the runner-up in the Missouri Valley, had a terrific season. Remember, they were kind of the talk of the town last year. And, look at their resume. The Missouri Valley was, I believe, the 10th best team in the league last year, in the country last year. So very similar to Conference USA this year. And so you just got to look at their resume, and Liberty's very similar to that resume at this point in time. Again, it's December. If Coach McKay was on here, he'd be mad at us for even talking about it. But that's what we do. That's what we talk about. So, again, it's just the foundation's been built. You're a fourth of the way through the season. We've had a really good first quarter. We got 3 more quarters to go, but we're in the ball game. Will, bring us back down to
Indiana State
reality.
did have 6 losses going into the NIT last year. They had a couple top 100 wins, but they were all Missouri Valley teams. They were Drake and Bradley. And again, Indiana State missing the tournament's a joke. It is atrocity that you put 68 teams in, and a team like Indiana State is left out. And then they go and they run through the NIT, they make it the championship, and they make people look silly. Just like that Lipscomb team. That Lipscomb team that Liberty beat, I think it was an atrocity that they weren't put in the tournament. There's no way they were not one of the best. I don't want to say 68 because it's more like 43 or whatever when you take out the at-large. But yeah, I mean, Liberty does have 2 top 100 wins out of conference, which is they're not incredible wins, but they are top 100 wins, and hopefully Charleston can figure it out. And then you could have 3. I think that might weigh more than we think. I don't know. Well, take us down.
No, hey, listen, I feel like I'm usually a lot more optimistic than you are, Kirby, about these sort of things. So it was just kind of funny to me that you're already talking at large, and we haven't even played 1 game in Conference USA, which we've just said is way better than last year. So, but hey, might as well put Kool-Aid in here, because if you would have told me we would have beat K-State with Owen Aquino on the bench pretty much the whole game, I would have said you're crazy. But here we are. And so, yeah, I mean, you guys said it, like, don't want to, like John said, don't want to count the chickens before the eggs hatch or anything like that. But, I mean, we are in really good shape. We've built a positive resume. If and to the point we get through Conference USA. I still think, in my opinion, that's still a big if, that we get through there.
I agree.
Run the table in that. So I still have I'm just going to, hey, a little bit of Kool-Aid, but not too much Kool-Aid is kind of where I'm at right now.
And Will, I'll be honest with you right now. I nowhere in my mind do I think we're going to run the table in Conference USA. I just don't think it's going to happen. The league's too competitive. And again, you play 18 league games this year, so I don't even know if 16-2 is in the cards. I mean, if we said today, like, we're 14-4 and the number 1 seed, I'll take that and not even play the games. Nick might disagree with me, but that would be a tremendous season, because that means you'd be 26-5 going in the conference tournament, the number 1 seed. I'd take that hands down.
That's exactly what Kim projects is 25-6. So I mean that's realistic. Yeah, no question about it. I mean, Liberty has to play better than what they're expected. But the fact that I think it's a conversation is pretty cool. It's a conversation. It's nothing. I'm not expecting it to happen by any stretch of the imagination. But, you have a couple games, like last year. How many games just didn't go Liberty's way at the end? You have a couple of those games that swing your way, and you're looking up at the end of the year and you're there. And I think that overall is pretty cool. Conference USA, it's better than last year, but it's similar at the top. It's only better because, Kennesaw's made it better. Kennesaw's 161. That's a nice ranking for a middle of the pack team. And there's also FIU's the only bad team. There's no one's outside of the top 200, thanks to New Mexico State pulling off one of the biggest upsets of the college basketball season. 20-point underdogs at New Mexico. That's a rivalry game. Their stadium's insane. That was awesome that they pulled that off. So Conference USA is better, but I don't think this La Tech team is better than they were last year because they had Isaiah Crawford. They lost him. I mean, they're good, but I don't think they're better than last year. Western Kentucky's probably a little better, but Sam Houston, they're probably about the same. I don't know. We'll see. It'll be interesting. I like that Liberty gets to open Conference USA play with 2 home games. I think that's really cool. I hope. I know it's like just January 2nd and 4th. I hope that Liberty Arena is really able to bring the juice. I know that's kind of a tough time of the year to kind of jump right back into college basketball, but man, you win those 2. You take care of business at home in those 2 games. It really, I think propels you well going into the rest of the season.
Yeah, because I mean the way the schedule looks, I mean you got the first 2 home games, and then you're on the road for 2, and then home for 2 games. Yeah, so and then you go on the road for 3. So, and then you're playing some teams that you had trouble with last year. We had trouble with Sam Houston last year and Louisiana Tech. So it's just a different team. The one thing I miss about being in Big South and being in ASUN is that we had some, maybe not ASUN so much, we had rivalry games. You talk about New Mexico State. We kind of don't have that. I don't know, we manufactured a football rivalry with Coastal about 10, 15 years ago. I'd like to see the athletic department kind of manufacture something just to kind of get us a little bit more excited about it.
I think Kennesaw is that team, right? I mean, they
have our number for sure.
They're the closest one to us, and you're right. They got our number. They got our number in football. They got our number in basketball. I mean, the last 3 times we played them in either one of those sports, they've beaten us. I see Nick turning his eyes up at me saying they got our number. I mean, they did beat
15-2 against them. I mean, they won the last 2.
They won the last 2, which were very important too. So they got the last laugh at us. But no, I mean, and shout out to Kennesaw. I mean, they came in, they beat a ranked Rutgers team already this season. But I agree with you, Will. One thing that I do enjoy about not being in the ASUN is it felt like so many of those games were like, if you lose this game, it just destroys your resume. And you don't really have that. You won't have that in Conference USA much. I mean, not that you want to lose any game. Of course you don't, but that's just basketball. Teams don't go undefeated unless you're UConn of last year, right? You just don't do it. So if you lose a game at a Kennesaw or at a, obviously a La Tech or Sam Houston or something like that, then it doesn't destroy your resume. You're still right in the thick of things. And, you can remember back to those trips like you would take to Florida against Stetson and
disaster.
And whoever else we'd play 2 games on there. You go 0-2, you come back feeling like, man, what just happened? I thought we were doing so well, and we just lost these 2 games, and that's just the way it goes. Again, that's just college basketball, especially on the road. So that's one thing I enjoy about being in Conference USA now is every night it's going to be a battle. It's going to be a contest, and if you lose, it's not the end of the world. Of course, when you get towards the end, and hopefully we're competing for a regular season title and seeding, things get more important and stakes are higher. But really looking forward to conference play.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Western Kentucky, I think that has a chance to be a rivalry that this goes on for a while. They got a pretty fun home court environment. Like La Tech, it's kind of disappointing. Every time I watch one of their games, I'm like, how and they've been a nice program for several years, and they just do not get the support. But I think Western Kentucky could be one. But yeah, outside of FIU, I mean, that's a great point, John. I mean, there's not unless New Mexico State kind of falls back down to earth, there's not a game that kills you. There's not that Stetson that you lose 48-43 to and just absolutely trashes your resume in one afternoon. You want to talk about some individual players? Maybe we can talk about everyone. I mean, I think obviously the first and foremost we have to talk about Isaiah Enon, who I think we all just underrated.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's incredible. I mean, what a talent. I mean, his ability to spread the floor. I mean, there's just so many different ways that he can beat you. I think Aquino has the higher ceiling still. But Aquino's played well. Aquino's played well the last couple of games. He's incredibly unselfish, but I kind of think Enon's now past him. I think Enon is probably the better player right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kirby. The step back three against Mississippi Valley State, that was all I needed to see. But no, you're right. I mean, kind of went into this little stretch, probably load management more than anything, but Zach Cleveland's been out. I don't know, kind of, John, you might have more of an update. I think they said like he was in a boot on the TV broadcast, but I'm sure it's just, hey, we want to make sure he is ready for conference play. But, I mean, they have not missed a step without him.
Yeah, no, you're right, Will. I'd heard that the floor down in the Virgin Islands wasn't in the best shape. So a couple players, from cutting and things like that, playing 3 games there in a short period of time are a little dinged up, and Zach kind of got the worst of it, like this isn't an official diagnosis of an injury, but like a bone bruise type thing on his foot. So hopefully, I think if we were in conference play last night, he would have been playing. So I think he'll be fine. But no, I mean, Isaiah Enon, man, what so much fun to watch. And one thing, every time he falls to the ground or goes up for a big collision or something, scary. I kind of hold my breath slightly, just knowing his history. Right, he's torn his ACL twice, and I'm just like, I know. Last night I was at the arena watching it, and I looked over one time when he kind of had a big fall, and I looked at Coach McKay, and McKay just like staring at him. I'm thinking McKay's probably got the same thought I got in my head right now, like, please get up, please get up. But Nick, we like to talk about comparisons. Like, is there a player that Liberty's ever had that you could compare Enon to? I mean, he's 6'9", every bit of 6'9", long, lanky. I mean, he can play, as a rim protector type, but that's not really his game. It's really more of a stretch 4. I think of like a Carter McMasters. Obviously, that his career didn't pan out like that. But what you got, Nick?
I mean, I think Enon's better, but I think Tomas Gallo.
Okay.
I mean, I think Enon's a lot more athletic, but just the size, the ability to shoot the 3, that's probably the closest. But I think Enon's so much more athletic.
Sure, no doubt. I think he's also longer, and maybe Caleb Holmesley be a good one. Tomas was more of a perimeter player. I think he had better ball skills than I think Isaiah has. Maybe Caleb Holmesley. I mean, Holmes is 6'6", 6'7", similar type players. Again, Caleb more of a wing player. I think, Enon, I still look at him as a forward, even though he has that 3-point stretch, but maybe Caleb would be the best player comparison. But hey, having a guy like that, amazing. And it was just a couple weeks ago before he kind of went off these last few games that I was thinking, man, he's like our 6th or 7th man, and think how good we are to have an Isaiah Enon as our 6th or 7th. I mean, this is a kid who was a 4-star recruit out of high school, had offers from all type of Big Ten schools and ACC, and goes to Minnesota. And he was a player for them as a freshman, and unfortunately some injuries kind of derailed his career, and they had a coaching change and kind of went a different way. But we were fortunate to get him. And he's we've had him in a couple post-game press conferences, very well spoken. I think Coach McKay said he speaks like 4 languages. He's originally from Germany. I mean, super bright kid. So, man, it's fun to watch him play. And again, fingers crossed every time he has a hard spill.
Yeah,
Minnesota right now 6-4 They're 111th in Ken Palm.
You think they like to have Isaiah Enan back?
Yeah, I think they'd like them back. Go ahead, Will.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach back. In my mind, John Brown. I don't know if you remember John Brown.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
He's a guy that could play 30 minutes and score 30 points, or he might play 10 minutes and score 10 points. But he's going to average 10 rebounds, and he was going to be hard to guard for everybody in the Big South. That 1 year, I think we had him for 1 year, I think, but he was kind of a game changer for that team a little bit.
Yeah. It feels like Enan's getting a lot more confident with every game. It feels like he's like, I can shoot the three. It felt like the first couple of games he was trying to, get in his rhythm, but it feels like he's like almost wants to be that guy. I think Caden Matheny kind of, but it's like Enan's your big wants to be that guy. Matheny's your guard wants to be that guy, and they both feel like the two kind of killers on this team right now.
Yeah, the other thing with Enan too is like some of these teams we've been playing, especially like last night and these non-ones, like he's like a man amongst boys playing out there. Like, I mean, what do you do if you're one of them? You have nobody his length, and certainly anybody that comes close to him his size, they're not as quick and as athletic as him, and and as talented as he is, just his ball skills and everything. But man, love Isaiah Enan.
A lot of fun to watch. Yeah, a lot of fun to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good things to go around. Colin Porter, we didn't mention him, played incredible against Kansas State, the biggest team that Liberty plays, which was really cool to see him. He kept finding ways to score, in like very unique ways, like you almost didn't really see before from Colin Porter. I think he hit a really big three in that game, kind of almost maybe flashback to when he hit that one against Kennesaw in the championship game. Porter kind of knows. It feels like he knows when I got to step up and make a big shot. But he's the rest of the time, he's completely fine, just kind of being the facilitator. And just it feels like he's picking his spots a lot better.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of really taken the role of leadership on the team. For years and years, this was kind of Kyle Rhodes' team. And it feels like this is just kind of, he might not be the superstar that Aquino or Cleveland or Enan might be, but to me, it feels like this is Colin Porter's team. I don't know if y'all kind of get that vibe or not.
And you mentioned Kyle Rhodes, who's actually at the arena last night. Must be on some type of break from his professional team, so it was good to see him. But yeah, no, I agree. That's a good point, Will, about Colin kind of taking more of a leadership role. I can see that. He kind of feels like maybe a little bit of a glue guy for this team. One thing I'll also say about him is maybe this reshaped roster has probably helped him more than anybody else on this team as far as returners go, which you don't have a ton of returners. But it seemed like you go back to the end of his freshman season, it kind of felt like he was ready to take that next leap as being like maybe even an all-conference type performer. I mean, remember that Eastern Kentucky game, he kind of put the team on his back and carried us to a win in a really high-level competitive basketball game, high stakes, right? I mean, that was a semifinal game. And then last year, kind of something was off, something was missing. And he seems like he's gotten his mojo back. He's gotten his swag back, and he's kind of playing like we expected him to play. His IQ is off the charts. He's a basketball player growing up in Kentucky. You're not surprised, but I think you guys hit it right. I mean, he's the leader. He's a glue guy. He's picking his spots. I mean, he was the MVP of the Paradise Jam, and we obviously don't win those 3 games without him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him continue to develop. You can just tell he likes having all these weapons around him and being that facilitator. And, one thing that I think he really lacked last year was maybe not his ability to finish, but he just didn't try to finish at the rim. I don't know why that was, but this year he's been more aggressive. He's taking his shots when he gets into the paint and going up and finishing if the defense doesn't respect him. And he'll still kick it out to an open man if he can, but it's really good to see. I mean, he's really been that team leader and a point guard like championship teams have to have.
Yeah, he's that guy that can go out and have that monster game, in the Virgin Islands, and then Mississippi Valley State. He was 1 for 1 on the floor.
And go back to the previous game. I think he only took one shot too.
Yeah. So like
to
Kirby's point, like that is a leadership deal, right? Like, when you need to, put the team on your back a little bit. You need to know when you got to pick your spots, who you're gonna feed. And so I think he just demonstrates all of those things. And I don't know, like it's just refreshing to see that from a guy that, is he's not the superstar of the team, but he is that guy.
Fellas, any other starters or regular rotation players you want to talk about before we kind of get to the bench?
I think we should touch on Owen. I know you kind of brought him up briefly. Let's just talk on him a little bit more. I mean, he was a guy that, remember back in Valpo, we were all like, oh my goodness, this is the second coming of, the greatest, Alex McLean or somebody like that, right? And it's not that his game's fallen off. It hasn't. We just, again, and I think we'll get to this, Nick, as we talk about the depth, is like there's so many different players on this team. It's not like you have just one guy, but there was moments last night that you could tell that McKay or the coaching staff was telling them, hey, let's get the ball into the paint. Let's get some post touches for Owen. And he'd make a move. He might get a shot, might kick it out. But yeah, I mean, he is very unselfish. I'm really interested to see like how his game develops as we get into conference play and we are in more 1 and 2 possession games, like and every possession, you're living and dying with those in crunch time. Like, I think we'll run the offense through him a lot more. Obviously, Zach hasn't been out there the last couple of games, so you don't want to forget about him because that's going to be a big part of the team too. But just when it feels like when you need a basket, there'll be times we'll just throw it down to Ian or Owen on the block and let him go to work, and hopefully he can get a shot, get fouled, or kick it out to someone for an open shot. But we haven't had. I don't think we had a guy on the team last year that you could do that. You could throw it down into the post and hope for something good to happen. It was kind of more last year. You're living dying by the three, which we do some this year, but we still got that guy that you can every now and then get a paint touch.
Yeah, last year it was like hope Shiloh Robinson does not drop the ball or miss a wide open layup. We haven't spent much time talking about Caden Matheny either. He's one of those superstars, no doubt. Making half court Darius McGee 3-point shots the other night. I don't know if y'all saw that press conference where I don't know who it was, John. Somebody asked when did Caden get his stroke back or something like that, and McKay was like just dying over there, like under his breath, like, what are you talking about? Was that you, John? Did you ask that question?
I did not ask that question. That was our friend Ed Lane. But McKay, the question was Caden, and he said, just keep firing it. And McKay, I think what did he say? Something like, it's when he steps on the court, when he's in range and when he's feeling confident. But no, I mean, I'm glad you brought him up. He's a sniper. Like, I mean, anytime he shoots the ball, you feel like it's going in, and all conference type player. He had 22 points last night, and I don't know, I don't have the box score in front of me, but he played about 19, 20 minutes. So, man, he's we've had so many good players and scorers and shooters. I mean, coming off of Darius McGee, but he's every bit as talented and as good of a shooter as Darius was.
I'll have to dig in a little bit more at like where his like 3-point percentage in Liberty history ranks, but it's got to be up there. I mean, he shot 41% last year. He's shooting 45% this year. It feels like if he's open, it's automatic. I mean, it's Darius McGee, but he's able to get open a little bit more than Darius McGee, and it's also a lot of credit to the team. This was like the team around Matheny fits him so much better this year, where last year he had to force a lot of shots. There'll probably be times he still has to force some shots. So there'll be, you'll play some of these Conference USA games, and man, one of these teams is just locked in defensively, and he's going to have to, throw him up, and you can live with it because he has that talent. But man, it just when he's open, it is his stroke is just it's so pure. But yeah, I mean, look at Darius McGee. Clearly a much different volume level, but I mean, McGee's last couple years shot 37%, 39%, and Matheny's right now 41 and 45. I mean,
wow.
I mean he's a high level right now, top 150 in the country, And I mean, there's a lot of, it's still early in the season. I'll be interested to see what his final rank is. I wouldn't be shocked if he's like top 50 in the country in 3-point percentage.
Well, he's a guy that, the next 3 or 4 games, I would not mind him seeing his minutes go down a little bit and let him rest his legs. Because I mean, we saw what happened with Darius in that ASON championship. Granted, the coverage on him was, you knew like that was the guy that was going to beat you. And so they guarded him that way. But I mean, Darius just like absolutely went off during the season, and then in that championship game could not hit anything. So I would like to see him sit the bench a little bit more and just be ready for conference season, have his legs under him.
No, I agree. I think it'd be good to have, a few less minutes in some of these games. But one thing about this team is, and I kind of touched on it a little bit already, but it's just there's so many different pieces. Like I feel like even if Caden had an off night or the team was zeroing in on him, we've got, Colin can step up. You've got Owen, you got Zach, you got Isaiah, Talon Peters, another guy that I think can take a big step too.
Yes.
But there's so many different pieces. It feels, and no disrespect to Darius. I mean, he in my opinion, he's the greatest of all time. He's certainly on the Mount Rushmore of Liberty basketball. But those teams that his last couple of years, it was Darius or nothing. Like he had to shoot 20 plus times a night, especially against a in the conference championship game type contest. And what was he, an 0 for that night? I think, unfortunately, from 3-pointers. So you're not going to win those type games. Where I think this team, like I remember back to, I think it was the Louisiana game down in the Paradise Jam, that Matheny was like a zero factor, a non-factor for the first 25 or so minutes of the game, and we were comfortably ahead, and then all of a sudden, Caden had a big outburst. I think he ended up 14 or 15 points that game. He had a big outburst in the second half, but that's just this team. And again, credit to Coach McKay and the staff for putting this roster together where you're not live and die by one guy. But I agree with you, Will. It would be nice to have, if we can get Zach back in the lineup here these next couple, maybe we can have an off night or two for Caden.
Yeah, and I feel good about that because of the bench. I'm going to tease that. We'll talk about that in just a second after a quick word from Jason Porter.
Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jason Porter. I'm with Legacy Realty and Development, and it's been a great partnership here with Sea of Red lately. I was with Liberty Athletics as the Associate Athletic Director for Sports Medicine, so took care of all of the healthcare needs and coordinated that with a fantastic staff at Liberty in the athletic department, of course, for about 5 or 6 years, and then moved into real estate full-time and with Legacy Realty and Development. And it's just been a great pleasure to continue to stay connected with my Liberty University family and the athletics family as well. Been enjoying serving them. A lot of the graduate assistants and some of the staff that I hired has come back now and has been using me for residential services, which I really appreciate. But certainly do residential real estate as far as buying and selling of homes, of course. And then also we have a strong commercial presence as well. So commercial real estate, obviously a very, very different animal than is residential. But whether it's buying and selling commercial properties or just the leasing of properties, we can help with that as well. So it's been a great opportunity to service our commercial clients as well. And then certainly on the investment front too, a number of folks who have discovered the power of passive income through real estate and investing in real estate with rental properties or fix and flips, those kind of things. And so great joy to serve my clients in that capacity as well. The other thing that I would add too is just a very, very full Rolodex at this point of contractors and subs and just different professional contacts that I've made through the years. So if I can ever provide any of those folks to you and all of a sudden you need a plumber or an electrician or a contractor to build your deck, whatever, I'd certainly be glad to give you access to that Rolodex and those references as well. Because a lot of times it's not exactly who you know, it's who you know that knows how to do the job well. And so I would be glad to provide those services for you as well. So love Flames Nation, love taking care of my Liberty family. And if there's ever anything I can do for you, my contact information is all right here on the screen. And I would love to be a service to you and yours. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks as always to Jason Porter Real Estate for his support of Sea Red. As always, any residential or commercial real estate needs, be sure to reach out to Jason Porter, number at the top of the screen. Let's talk about the bench, because I loved what I saw yesterday. McKay went to the bench real early. I think it was about 10 minutes left in the game. He pulled everyone, and I'm like, oh, man, come on. Don't do this. Don't do this. Do not ruin this.
I was thinking about you, Nick.
And you know what? They increased the lead by 2 points over the last 10 minutes. And it was really more than that, because they had a couple sloppy turnovers at the end. Probably cost us about one spot in the KenPom ranking, but we'll give them a pass. They played well. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, I thought the bench played awesome. And I'm so excited about this bench right now. I'll just kind of run through them, and then I'll pass it to you guys. Love Brett Decker. I mean, this dude is a baller. I love that kind of, we're so excited about the transfer portal, and that's important, and it's going to be important for Liberty to continue to reload, but it's also going to be important that they don't kind of lose that identity of, I don't want to say draft and develop. They don't draft, but recruit and develop these players, because, guys like Cleveland and Porter, they mesh really well with these transfers. You kind of need a balance of both. And I think Brett Decker is like the perfect example of that. Talon Peter, love his game. I think he's going to have some big moments for this team. I think there's going to be a couple games where he's the player of the game and off the bench. I think he will have that. Xander Yates, how about Xander? I mean, he's coming and hit some nice threes, 7 for 12 now shooting. And he's playing some bigger, not just Mississippi Valley, played a couple of the other bigger games. Hit some big threes. Really kind of love that he's just kind of the secret weapon that you can throw in at any time. And the last one I'll mention here, well, Caillou, good to see him have a really nice bucket last night. Is Curtis Blair the best player to ever play for Liberty?
Please. Get out of here. I saw the men's basketball Twitter said like Blair buckets and like a little trademark logo. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. That was copyrighted in 2003. Kirby, you stole the words right out of my mouth about that's exactly what I was going to say about Brett Decker. Like he's not a transfer. He's a guy that they recruited out of high school from Kentucky. He's kind of the heir apparent, I think, right now for Colin Porter. He seems like he's going to be that guy that right now he can shoot from anywhere. He can score. But I think, he'll grow into that role some as the years go by here. And so as long as we keep him and Peter, like you said, he's a guy that, I don't know many teams, Taylor Peter and Xander Yates. I don't know how many teams are game planning for them. So you throw them in there when you need a little spark or you need to give somebody a spell, and they just kind of keep the pace of where everything was. So.
I like to say that, once we're fully healthy with Zach back in the lineup, that it's likely Isaiah Enon is coming off the bench most nights, either him or Javon Moffmer, who we didn't talk about earlier. So we really got 6, if you want to call Peter a 7th starter. It looks really good when you can bring a guy like Isaiah Enon off the bench. But yeah, I mean, I'll echo what you guys said about Decker. I mean, obviously his offensive game is maybe as good as anybody on the team. I mean, he's that good on offense. He's really good. You can see when he gets in there that there was a time last night, there was just a clear out for him. They put 4 guys, went and stood on the other side of the floor and like break your guy down and get to the basket. We know you can. So he's obviously a really good scorer. What I'd love to see out of him as he continues to develop, again, he's a true freshman. We're talking about him being an 8th, maybe a 9th guy, which I think we'll need as we get into conference play and deeper into the season is, he needs to be more consistent and more reliable, more trustworthy for the coaching staff on the defensive end of the floor. Because that's obviously why he's not playing more, is because of his defensive ability. Not that he can't do it. He obviously has a talent and skill level and quickness, speed, all that stuff that he needs to be a good defender. He just needs to put the work in and concentration in. And again, it takes time to learn the pack line system and what the coaching staff wants from him. But his ceiling's extremely high. He certainly could be an all-conference player before his career is done. I think he'll probably slide into the starting lineup next year when Caden has moved on and, in that backcourt. I agree, Nick. Like Xander Yates was a guy that I kind of like. I don't want to say I forgot about him. I just kind of just assumed he wouldn't even play this year. But, Coach McKay's found a spot for him to have a role on this team. And it's not a huge role, but again, one of those games in the Paradise Jam, he came in and hit a huge three late in the first half that, either gave us a lead or kept us right in it, or what. I don't remember exactly the situation, but we're going to need him at times. I mean, Owen's been prone to get into foul trouble. So having someone like a Xander that can come in and give you 5 minutes here and there to kind of spell those big guys or even, and the ability for him to knock down those open threes is huge. And we were talking about Caden, how good he's shooting, but again, Xander, not the level of volume even close to what Caden's doing, but I feel like every time he touches ball, he's just shooting it so commonly right now. It feels like it's going in when he gets a clean and open look.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a game where you fall behind early and you could be that kind of spark plug, hit a couple threes and just kind of strategically use them. But yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with what we've seen from Yates. But Decker, it was most impressive thing to me is he did not play at all in those final 2 games in the Paradise Jam. McKay went real short on those rotations. Really wanted to win those games,
which I'm glad he did, because a lot of times in the past, McKay will still go 8, 9, 10 deep, even those games. But you look at the schedule, like those are your 2 games that you could get a marquee win, and you got the whole month of December to have kind of a, I don't want to say an off month, but you know what I mean. We're 20+ point favorites in every game except for the UT Arlington. So I'm glad he did shorten that bench. I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, didn't play at all. The 3 games before that had a total of 3 points. Didn't play in the FAU game, and then 18 against Central Penn, 16 against Mississippi Valley. Both games shot 4 of 7 for 3 in each game. He's also really, I know Liberty fans love to see this, 5 for 6 from the free throw line. And did he shoot a technical free throw the other day?
Yeah, there was one, and actually Caden was on the floor, but McKay turned to Brett and said, "You go shoot it." And I was like, "Wow, you're going to let the true freshman shoot the technical free throw over your senior and scoring leader in Caden Matheny." That just shows you the type of confidence they have in him and how good he is as far as being a shooter.
Yeah, Kirby, I was going to ask you, it's kind of like the golden batter rule, right? Like you just get to choose anybody to shoot your free throws for you.
We could go down that a long time. I kind of like the golden bat rule. I really do. I know. I recorded a podcast. I'm way off here. I recorded a podcast and I was about to say I hated it, and I started talking about it more, and I kind of talked myself into it.
I want to go listen to that.
It's on YouTube.
Everything's on YouTube.
I was impressed though with Curtis Blair in all seriousness last night. I kind of thought, he's just probably a complete development year, and I think it is going to end up being that. Just more so not because of him, more so because of just the amount of talent and depth this team has. But and again, I don't want to make too big a deal out of anything that you do against the literal worst team in college basketball. But he looked confident and comfortable last night. Looks like there really still is some of that potential that we expected with them is super high recruit rating. I was encouraged with what I saw out of Blair last night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Again, he's got a lot of guys in front of him this year, so he probably won't play a ton. But in the past, we've always had those guys on the end of the bench, and they'll be here for 2 or 3 years, and they'll transfer to a D2 school or something like that. But you love for him, a guy like him, Caillou's another guy that I kind of think of to stick around here for 3, 4, maybe 5 years, and see if they can become rotation players and pieces that you can use. I think a guy like Blair could, right? I mean, think about it like an Isaiah Warfield. Like, he was kind of growing into that type player, and if he would have stayed here his last couple of years, he would have been a rotation piece. It kind of grew into that. So hopefully a guy like a Curtis Blair will stick around. And it's easy for us to sit here and say that, right? Like, I mean, he's only got one shot to play college basketball. So if he thinks it's in his best interest to transfer somewhere else where he can play more, I get it. But we'll love for him to stick around a little bit longer and, into next year and see if he can become a part of that rotation.
Yeah, I mean, good point. these games like this, the non-D1s, you can put him in, and you're not gonna lose anything. But will that happen against Western Kentucky? I don't know. But Warfield is a good example of that. He's a guy that if he would have stuck around, he would have inherited much more of a key role.
That's a good point. Well, I got to stop. When we're up by 30 and I want the Ken Palm ranking, I got to be thinking, all right, I'm trading 2 spots in the Ken Palm ranking for development and trying to keep these players. It's the long game. It's 3D chess, McKay. I gotta remember that. Gotta stop throwing my drinks. I'm not kidding. But let's talk about the net ranking. Liberty's dropped like 6 spots since it came out. I mean, I think it's more just because, unfortunately, like I said, Kansas State and McNeese both lost over the weekend. Liberty sitting at 62, sandwiched in between BYU and Northwestern. Still look, 62 is a really good Ken Palm ranking. Net ranking. Liberty's like there's 63 in Ken Palm, so like net and Ken Palm are like completely in agreement with right now with where Liberty's at. But for a team that started 106, couldn't have had a better first month and 4 days of the season.
Yes.
Great analysis.
Well, again, you go back to our talk earlier about at large bids and that sort of thing. Again, Indiana State, I think they're in the 30s in the net. That's the number that matters when you get into March. So, Liberty's got to have that number keep rising as you keep going. And basically for the rest of December, you just hope it doesn't drop too much. I mean, you're not going to be able to do much. Maybe that U2 Arlington, if you have a large margin of victory, that you can move up. But it's really going to be based upon what your opponents do, just do your schedule. But when you get into conference play, there's going to be some, definitely quad 2 games. Maybe La Tech has a chance to be a quad 1 game. So there'll be chances for you to make up some ground there. But again, it comes down to seeding. I think, more than likely, we all agree that the at-large is very unlikely. So you're more, take care of business in that tournament, in the Conference USA tournament in March. And then you're talking about, can you get an 11, 12, where you at? Because obviously every seed line you go up, your chances of a win in the tournament increases significantly. So anything you can do to improve those metrics. In December, what else you got to talk about right now, especially when you look at Liberty's non-conference schedule the rest of the year?
Go ahead.
Sorry, Kirby. Well, you still, our conference opponents, a lot of them still have really big games to play before conference play starts. I don't have the net rankings in front of me of who is where, but like UTEP has Louisville coming up, and Western Kentucky is going to play Michigan. So still rooting for CUSA to have some good showings. To if we get some wins over them in conference play, that keeps rising.
Sure, and like the win, Nick mentioned it earlier, New Mexico State over New Mexico. Those are types of wins that helps their portfolio increase, so that can only and by default help us. Same thing with Kennesaw State. They've risen 60 some odd spots in Ken Palm, so that can only help as well too.
Yeah, here's the breakdown. I don't know how easy this is going to be able to see on the screen here, but no quad 1s right now. The closest would be McNeese would need to jump up 43. Yeah. Where's Kansas State? Are they a quad 3 right now? Are they that bad? I gotta zoom out. Sorry. Kansas State is a quad 3. Isn't that make you sick? They're 6 spots away from moving up. Well, Florida Atlantic is a quad 3 too. They're 1 spot from moving up.
The thing about Kansas State is once they get into Big 12 play, it's all about how good they do. If they have a good conference season, they're going to shoot up these net rankings.
They win a couple games and they may be like below average in the Big 12 and still just playing all those high level those high ranked teams will just, if you don't get smoked and you play competitive, they'll go up. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, it's going to be tough to get a quad one win. La Tech, if they, their road game on, they would need to be top 75. That's probably the only realistic, if I'm being honest right now.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, they would have to rise 24, 25 spots, which they could do it. They had at least one loss, I think, the other day that was kind of a bad loss for them. That kind of hurt their. Yeah, you can't have losses like that. If again, you got, if you're going to be a quad one type of opponent, you can't lose games like that. You got to win all the games you're supposed to win, and then try to pull a couple upsets here and there.
Yeah, Southern at home. That was pretty shocking result. I mean, Southern's for a SWAC team, I think they're the top team in the SWAC. They're 222, but yeah, that was probably the most brutal loss. That might be the most brutal loss of the season for Liberty's resume.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I got there. What's coming up for Liberty? We kind of touched on it, but obviously another, probably this is the last scary game for me of the year next Saturday. These are what I call like the disaster games. Liberty needs to win by 19 to maintain their KenPom ranking. So like, I'm always nervous, like you only win these games by 7 or 8, and it's an easy 7 or 8, win. It's never in doubt, but they can really trash your rankings. After that, I mean, Liberty, I think, doesn't have a whole lot of games where they're going to be favored by more than like 12 points at best. So North Carolina A&T next Saturday, then Tuesday, December 17th against St. Andrews, and then a pretty fun game right before Christmas against UT Arlington. UT Arlington is 4-5, 179 in KenPom. That'll be a pretty good challenge and a good way to hopefully wrap up. And I kind of like this, John McKay, given a pretty long break before Conference USA play.
Yeah, it's interesting. You got these 3 games in a week, like you just talked about, starting this Saturday, all at home. And then you've got, almost 2 weeks from the 21st until January 3rd, I think, is the Western Kentucky or Middle Tennessee first. So almost 2 weeks, I guess it's 2 days shy of 2 weeks break. I'm sure that the guys will get to go home for Christmas and that sort of thing and have a little bit, maybe a few days off. But then things will ramp up quite aggressively. But I mean, I think it's good the way this December schedule, you kind of like, when you're in the middle of it, it's kind of like, man, when did we play? Like before the game last night, it's like, when has basketball played? I feel like it's been weeks. And even last night, it's, a yawner. You could go to bed at halftime if you wanted to. But, after what they went through, that was a grueling stretch, let's be honest, in November, where they played so many games in such a shorter period of time, and all of them away from home. McKay was given a stat, and he's done it a couple times in his press conferences, of how many days they've been away from home throughout the month of November. So, based on what you did in November, like we talked about, you kind of laid that foundation, and now you're in a good spot, and you can use this month of December to kind of, like we're talking about, develop the rest of that bench. Make sure you got 7, 8, and 9 that you feel comfortable going to, and stay healthy, and get healthy for a guy like Zach Cleveland, get him a couple of nights off. Hopefully give Caden a night off, or reduce minutes the rest of the month. But yeah, that UT Arlington game, that's a good, if you there haven't been, we've talked about it before, the non-conference home schedule is just atrocious. So if you haven't been to Liberty Arena and you're in the area, come on out December 21st. It's a Saturday. I think it's a 7:00 game, UT Arlington. I mean, Liberty should win. They'll probably be close to an 8 to 12 point favorite, I would guess. But that's a good game. It should be a competitive game. It's not going to be one that you're, I hope we're up by 20 at halftime, but it's not one that you expect to be over so quick. So it'd be a good, that's a typical like Conference USA, mid to lower half of a Conference USA type of game there. So come on out and check out the team then.
Yeah,
That's exactly.
Actually,
exactly
John, the schedule says 2:00.
Oh, is it 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the real question is that, that game in between A&T, UT Arlington is St. Andrews. And it says on the schedule pajama party night. So the real question is John going to be wearing his pajamas to the game?
The real question is, will John be at that game?
Watching it from home in your pajamas.
Yeah, there you go. Probably be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, a brutal schedule in the year. I counted up 8 games in the first 21 days of the season, and they were tough games. I mean, these were all games against high major teams, so really grueling. And then kind of a nice little slower December. I wonder if there was something done intentionally with the schedule after last year, because looking back, kind of remember it now. Played Alabama on December 30th, then for some reason played Boyce on New Year's Day, like 11 a.m. or something. It was the most Liberty thing I've ever seen in my life.
Nobody in Liberty Athletics, nobody in Liberty fan base remembers that game except for Nick Kirby, because everybody else was watching the Fiesta Bowl.
That was the same day.
Well, that's like we played Middle Tennessee on the bowl game day, so a lot of folks will be watching what's happening in the Bahamas that game instead of basketball. So
yeah, but yeah, I mean, like they played the December 30th, January 1st, and then January 6th was right into conference play. So I wonder if, and remember they lost that game to Western Kentucky by one possession. That was the
overtime, or
no, that was the Cleveland should he have passed. That was the controversy into the corner. I thought he made a great play, not to rehash memories, but yeah, I do wonder if there was some felt like the fatigue in that, and Liberty ended up losing the first 3 Conference USA games, and I think there was probably something strategic.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think you're probably right, Nick. You get, and again, the schedule sets up good. You got a nice rhythm of games, and games that, they're Division I teams primarily. So it's not like you can completely take the night off. You still got to be locked in mentally and physically as well too. So it kind of keeps you in that rhythm, but it's also not a grueling schedule. You're not going up against an Alabama, less than a week prior to conference play starts. And then you get, almost 2 weeks off. So that'll be good too. We should be good. Hopefully we're not rusty at all. That's the only thing I would be concerned about. But basketball's different. Like, football, you get out of your rhythm and that sort of thing, which I think the team kind of suffered from that some this season from the way their schedule went. I don't know if that's the case. You can still get a lot of shots up on your off days in basketball.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. I'm certainly excited. I'll kind of give my final kind of thoughts here, and I'll give it to you guys, and we'll wrap this up. Appreciate everyone that tunes in as always. Good stuff from Liberty. Kind of looking through some of the numbers. This is an elite offensive program. It's been an elite offensive program, but they're 3rd right now in the country in effective field goal percentage. If you don't know what that is, basically just measures threes are more valuable than 2s, and overall, Liberty's 13th in 3-point percentage, 13th in 2-point percentage. Free throws still a little bit to be desired there. We'll see how that kind of shakes out. I think that number will go up as the year goes on, but my biggest overarching thing is just how drastic this defense has improved. Now we'll see how it looks at the end of Conference USA play. But Liberty last year kind of hit rock bottom of Richie McKay 2.0 in terms of defense, and I think a lot of us adjusting in Conference USA. Ranked 180th last year, up to 36th right now. I don't expect that to stay at 36th. I think it probably falls down 20 spots at least by the end of the year as they play better teams. But just the drastic improvement, and it's mostly the personnel than anything, but just how it's improved and improved so quickly, and with all these transfers, that to me is just what's got me believing really this is a tournament team right now.
Yes. Final takeaway for me, a lot of season left. They look locked in right now. But the conference schedule is going to be really the test. I'm glad you brought up free throw shooting. It seemed like it started coming together a little bit, and then it's sometimes with that it seems like it's one step forward, two steps back. Conference play, it's really going to have to be there because they're going to be closer games like they were last year. So that's going to have to. I think that's going to be a big key down the stretch, like it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, I just we got a good basketball team that we can watch and follow into March, and hopefully we can make a run in March, and hopefully we stay healthy. But you got these last 3 weeks or so of the year as far as December. Go into conference play feeling good, put out 3 more good quality performances in these games, stay healthy. And then, I can't wait for conference play. I mean, and that first weekend is what a great, test for us, 2 tests with Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky coming into Liberty Arena. Those are games that, if you want to be if you're going to be where you want to be when you get into late February and early March, these are games that you want to win, right? They're against teams that are expected to be in the top half of the conference standings, teams that you're likely going to be jockeying for position in the for seeding into the conference tournament, and you don't want to slip up at home. Obviously, no game at this point in time is a must win, but if you can start off 2-0, you're feeling good. You got 2 tough road games right after that. So I'm really looking forward to that weekend at Liberty Arena, and hopefully the team takes care of business, these next 3 games. And, we can go into the new year feeling as good as we do now.
Yeah, I think this team will get to the free throw line a lot too in Conference USA. Just kind of the personnel that they have. I think Aquino, Enan, obviously Cleveland are going to draw a lot of fouls. And so, yeah, I mean, I think, cleaning up the free throw, that's probably, the one area that if there's something that I would maybe be concerned about is that could absolutely be a complete detriment to the team. But yeah, I mean, it's just, the first 3 games are all on. I mean, the first 5 Liberty Conference games are on national TV.
So one cool little tidbit, and that's awesome. We got a lot of conference games that are on national TV, but January 4th, Liberty has 3 games as athletic department as a whole on national TV. You got the bowl game at 11 a.m. That's on ESPN2. Then you got the women's game, I think, is at 2 p.m. on CBS Sports Network. Then the men at 7 p.m. on CBS Sports Network in a conference game. So, hopefully you have no plans on January 4th other than sitting in front of your TV and watching Liberty Athletics for like 9 straight hours.
I think they have more nationally televised games than ESPN Plus games. I'm looking through
That's
this.
a wild stat. I know they have a lot of national TV games.
We should be able to get Warner and Naz on the show a little bit more then, because
there
they
you
don't
go.
have anything to do.
Yeah.
They have 10 conference games. So what? Half of them. They have 20, right?
It's 18 conference games. So you got 10 out of 18.
10 out of 18 are on national TV.
That's impressive.
It's great.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That'll be
especially
fun.
coming off of last year. I mean, it's not like this is the defending conference champs returning.
Yeah, it could have been relegated.
Yeah.
And I love CBS Sports Network. I love that they play the music. I mean,
get you all jazzed up and ready to go, huh?
We're ready to roll. All right, fellas. Well, appreciate it as always. Thanks everyone as always for tuning in. Appreciate all the love and support. We'll try to come back sometime before conference play. I don't think we're gonna come on and do a show after North Carolina A&T and St. Peter's, St. Andrews. Sorry, no disrespect to that wonderful program. Unless something disastrous happens, then we have to talk people off the ledge. But we'll be back sometime before the first of the year. Hope everyone, if we don't talk before then, has a Merry Christmas. And as always, Jason Porter Real Estate for all your real estate needs. Ironclad Coffee for all your coffee needs. Have a great night, everyone.